Today I'm going to talk about my second to last area, which was a pretty cool area. Had a really pretty view of the ocean. There were really nice families in the ward. They would feed us, take us in, treat us like family, which was really nice. I remember going out to one family's house. It was way out in this small fishing town we had to take the bus to. And they lived way up on the hill. And they were rebuilding their house, so they needed a bunch of cement. So missionaries and other people from the church, we all went and hauled a bunch of cement up the hill, just hiking it up there so they could rebuild their house. But it was super fun. They were nice. They fed us and stuff. We went Christmas caroling with some members of the ward. That was fun. Saw fireworks over the water on New Year's Eve. We weren't really supposed to be outside of the house. We were just right outside of the house. Me and the two other missionaries went. My companion was a little too cool for that. We'll talk about him more in a second. The two other elders were really nice guys. Their area was right next to ours, but we had two bunk beds in the same room that we shared. We were 4 missionaries living in the same house with a mamita who was also super nice and fed us oatmeal every morning. A member of the ward let me borrow his guitar while I was there, which was always super nice for me and my mental health. My companion was a little bit musical, so we played guitar a little bit, but he had different musical taste than me. One day while I was there, I shaved off all my body hair just for fun. One of the missionaries in the other companionship was a great guy, but his trainer told the mission president that he was a bad kid. And the mission president was like, hey, you need to straighten out and be a better worker. And I saw him. He was a good worker. But the president believed lies that were told about this kid and decided he was going to send him home. He told me he wanted to stay and keep working, but the mission president just got him plane tickets and said, you're going to go inactive in the church and your whole life is going to be a mess because you didn't finish your mission. So instead of 2 areas, then we became like a threesome of missionaries, and we had 3 different cities that we covered. Well, it was time for another zone meeting and an interview with the president. During the meeting, the president was talking, and he was doing this thing that really annoys me, where it comes across to me as really fakey, where they whisper because they're so sincere. And then they get really loud because it's really important. And they go back and forth between this cadence in their voice. And I don't like it because I feel like they're trying to manipulate me. And I don't like being manipulated. So he's up there doing this fiery speech and then whispering. And I had already lost all respect for this guy. So I'm just waiting for the meeting to end. And I'm looking at my watch. This happened to me back in the MTC too. But the president looks at me from the pulpit and he calls me out in front of everyone. Elder House. I don't even remember what he said, but something confrontational. Unlike in the MTC, I didn't really have any confrontation left in me, so I was just nothing. And then after the meeting, I go into the interview. And it's kind of awkward because it's just he and I sitting across from a desk. And I was like, dude, what was that? He said, what was what? And I was like, you yelling at me in front of everyone back there? He's like, oh, did I yell? Well, gee, maybe I got carried away. I decided to sprinkle a little hellfire and damnation in my talk. Which I thought was ironic, because the day before I just read a talk by President Inkley saying there's no room in this church for the preaching of hellfire and damnation. The exact words. It's funny. I decided to call him out in private. I told him that I didn't like that he sent Elder Patavani home because he was a good kid. And I said, people often say that your mission president is like your father away from home. I was like, dude, you are nothing like a father. I don't know if that did anything or not. Well, later, I guess our zone had a lot of baptisms, so we got to go have a picnic somewhere with the mission president. Yay! So we went to some rocky shore and kind of hung out. We had to pass a beach that had a lot of people on the way there, but since we're missionaries, we had to go to a secluded place where no one else would be. Can't be around people in bathing suits. I heard the mission president talking about like a shell steak that somebody down in Chile had created an entire steak, like group of congregations that was fictitious just so they could get a bunch of church funds. That was a crazy story. But we were driving back. We're in like a minivan or SUV or something. I was in the far back. President was up in the front. I was getting pretty close to the end of my mission, and somebody was asking, "What are you going to do when you get home?" And I was looking out the window at this beach, and I was like, "Quiero puro ir a la playa y mirar a las minas." Which was hilarious, because I was like, I just want to go to the beach and check out the babes. And I guess people thought that I was nuts for saying that while the president was in the car, but I really didn't care. Okay, I've got one more fight story for you. I think this may be the last physical fight I was in my life. It's a long time ago. So my companion and I are out knocking on doors and teaching people the missionary lessons. And this dude had a lot of issues. So one day we were teaching a lesson to some lady in her living room. And the way we did it with the discussions is we'd take turns teaching different topics that build on each other. But this guy was a little narcissistic, I guess. He wanted all the lessons taught his way. So he would teach his portion, and then he would say, "And now my companion's going to tell you about," and then you'd go through my whole portion. And then he'd look at me and be like, "Okay, go ahead, Elder House." And I was like, He did it a lot, and it was kind of annoying because he just like said everything, and it feels dumb to repeat it. So this day I was like, "Oh yeah, you got that." And so I moved on to the next one. And he got super mad that I didn't parrot what he just said. When we got out, he was just like yelling at me. He's like, "Hey, can't believe you did that to me. That was so disrespectful." And I was like, "Get over yourself, dude." But we're like walking in the middle of the street, and like middle of the day, there's some people looking around. They see us, and we're both kind of raising our voices. But I was like, "We shouldn't do this here. Let's go back to our apartment and talk about it there." And he agreed. So we went back and we were talking, and he's like, "Man, I just want to get a new companion that doesn't speak Spanish so I can do everything my way." I was like, "You're an idiot." Oh geez, I don't remember now exactly how the argument went, but I do remember being like, "It's time for you to shut up now. And if you don't shut up, you're gonna get a beat down." And he kept going, he wouldn't shut up, so I just started punching him in the face. Got a few in, and then he pushed me away and ran out. My previous companion, Boone, heard about it later. He was companions with him like in the MTC or something, and he's like, "I knew that was going to happen as soon as I heard you were going to be his companion." Because the guy's not the easiest to get along with. Well, I was planning on spending the rest of my mission in this area, and I liked the area. But probably because of the fight, I got transferred. I was at zone meeting, and the zone leader was like, "Elder House, you're getting transferred." And I was like, "That's lame." And he told me my return date when I was going to be flying home. The transfers happen every 6 weeks. So you either do or don't get transferred, but it's every 6 weeks. And that means for 2 years, you're either going to leave a few weeks early or a few weeks late. And you get a choice. you still return home honorably, full-time 2-year mission. But nobody asked me, and they said, we're going to send you for 2 transfers to this other city. And I said, don't I get a choice? Like, the transfer before or after? And this goober looked at me like I was a horrible sinner for wanting to shave off a couple weeks. He said, yeah, if you really want to be that way. And I was like, for sure. Tell the mission president and the guys in the office that I want to go the transfer earlier. So they made the change, but I still got transferred. And I'll talk about my last area in the next one.